Here are 4 must-read books if you're from Mount Carroll. The first one I want to show you is I Taught Amelia to Fly. Now, you've probably heard of this book, but maybe you haven't. I lived in Mount Carroll for a long time, knowing that Nita Snook, the woman who taught Amelia Earhart how to fly, grew up here. But it was a long time before I knew she wrote a book about it. And then it was a long time after that before I actually got my hands on a copy and read the book for myself. This book is amazing. I was really inspired and surprised by her story, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it to anybody else who's interested in American history and in, early 20th century history, but also in local history in Mount Carroll. She spends quite a bit of her book talking about growing up here and shares a lot of memories and stories that relate to how she got into aviation, how she became the first female to graduate from the Curtis School of Aviation and also become a licensed female pilot, and the first woman to operate a commercial airfield, and all the obstacles that went with that. So it's a really fun read. She actually it's an autobiography. She does a great job writing her story. And what's really cool about it is all the little nuggets of local history that are just sprinkled throughout the entire narrative. So I highly recommend it. The trouble is it can be really tough to get your hands on a copy of this. And when you do find one, they're pretty expensive. I don't know how many were ever printed, but it was probably just one print. Maybe there's a couple thousand of them out there. So it's really hard to find since it's out of print. And actually, all the ones that I've ever seen, she actually signed. And so if you do find a copy online, people want extra money for that because they're signed. So these average around $150 from what I've seen over the years that I've kind of been keeping my ear to the ground about that. But I did find a couple copies that are available right now. I have a link in the description. If you're interested in reading this, maybe there's a copy at the library. Maybe you can borrow it from a friend. If you know of a copy, read it. If you want to buy a copy, follow the link in the description. It'll take you to Amazon, and there's a very expensive copy of this in Southern California that comes up. But even though that's well over $200, click under the price where it says, find other copies or other buying options. Click that drop down, and right now there are a couple copies that are around $75 that, if that works for you, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, see if you can borrow this or find it somewhere else on your own. You will be delighted. She does a great job telling her story, and like I said, the local history in there is just precious. I will certainly be doing other videos in the future highlighting her story and the things that she mentions in the book throughout town. And Mount Carroll's pioneer female aviator who taught Amelia Earhart how to fly. It's a pretty amazing story. You won't regret it. And if spending that kind of money to read that is out of reach for you, which it was for me for a long time, the only reason that I have a copy is because it was a gift, and I'm grateful for that. But if that's out of reach, I'm excited about sharing this next book with you because it is a children's book about Nita Snook's story. And it's called Amelia's Teacher, the Nita Snook Southern Story by Jeannie Snook Anderson and illustrated by Erica Lee. This is such a great little book. It's available. Also, I have a link in the description where you can buy this on Amazon. So I made it easy for you to just be able to find these books. But the great thing about this is that the author does a really good job of summarizing all the highlights of what Nita Snook wrote in her autobiography. So I'll just give you a sneak peek here. The various illustrations are gorgeous. This right here is something that she mentions in the book about the Carroll County Fair, which used to be in Mount Carroll at this time, and how she just longed for going up in the hot air balloon at the fair, and wishing that the person who operated the balloon would get sick, and then, in a sense of urgency, people would ask little Nita to go up in the balloon. It's kind of a fun story, but there's multiple things, especially in the early part of the book. This is a story she shares about her doctor going out north of town and in the Model T, and feeling the sense of flight unlike she could ever get in a horse and carriage before this point. So various different parts of her story, working on her dad's Stanley steamer and learning mechanics. And so great little children's book that really does a good job capturing the essence of Nita Snook's story. And it's not very expensive. I think it's something like $12 or $13. So follow the link in the description. You can also get your hands on this. And I think every kid in the area should read this book. All right, the next book I want to share with you is Beauty Spots of Mount Carroll. And this book I discovered several years ago, and I found a copy of it online, but I wanted to have my hands on the book itself. And so I learned of a few copies and finally was able to get one. And it's just a delightful little book. I have no idea who printed it. It's likely the Commercial Club, which was kind of like the Chamber of Commerce back in the day. It appears to be made as an advertisement for our community. So it includes 27 pictures of what Mount Carroll looked like back in the 1920s. The best I can figure is this was produced in 1923, from just analyzing what was said and the pictures and everything in there in 1923. So over 100 years old, and the language that's used is just very glowing and very optimistic about the community. And the pictures show, the downtown and other spots within the community. And then it transitions into some of the more natural rock formations and the river and other features of the community that are just beautiful places. And so when I first got my hands on this, I was like, oh man, I wish I had one, because I was borrowing a copy of it just because I wanted to see it. And I'm like, I wish this was in print somewhere. I wish other people could enjoy this. And so the next one I want to show you is the same book, but I, about 8 years ago, republished this, Beauty Spots of Mount Carroll, revisiting the beauty of our small town. And I wanted, other people to be able to have the opportunity to read this and enjoy a snapshot of Mount Carroll from the 1920s. And so I did that. I put this together. It's the same exact book, except I also added advertisements from the 1920s that I was able to get my hands on as well. And so on every opposing page, there's all these different advertisements. So it kind of fills in, gives you a better sense of what the community was like at that time. And some of the advertisements are clever and kind of funny. A lot of Kraft Kessler clothing company ads in here sprinkled throughout, but also, the Mirror Democrat and different banks and Wildy's grocery store, and just so many things that you might recognize or maybe you've never heard of. It's just really fun. So there's a link in the description for this one as well, and you can buy a copy for yourself if you're interested. All right, so the next book, this is the one I'm the most excited about right now. All the other ones are fun, and I think anybody would appreciate them. But this one is really, really cool because it's somewhat of a new discovery for me. I came across this book a couple years ago, but again, did not have my own copy. And so it took me a while to be able to get one, and one that I could afford to buy, because it was, these aren't just readily available. And this is a rough copy of it. It's had some damage, but this is a book called Memorial Addresses on the Life and Character of Robert M.A. Hawke. And you might be like, I don't know anything about that. What's so significant about that? Well, this book is about Mount Carroll's only resident congressman, Robert Hawke. He was a Civil War veteran, and he lived right here in Mount Carroll after the war. He was the county clerk for many years after the war here in Carroll County, and he ended up getting elected to Congress to serve this part of the state of Illinois in the U.S. House of Representatives. While he was there, he got ill very suddenly and fell sick and died unexpectedly. And so what happened from there, he was in Washington, D.C., he died unexpectedly, and Congress sent a delegation of both representatives from the House and the Senate to Mount Carroll with his body and did a congressional burial up at Oak Hill Cemetery for Robert Hawke. And then after they were here, those members of Congress from both the House and the Senate gave oral testimonies of the character of Robert Hawke and shared about their time coming to Mount Carroll and experiencing his funeral and what the community was like. And then they gave these testimonies in Congress and decided to publish them in a book and distribute them throughout the country. So there was 12,000 of these books that were made. And this is really, really interesting to me because Robert Hawke lived a fascinating life. He was just kind of a regular Carroll County resident, from rural Illinois. He actually grew up near Lanark, and then after the war settled in Mount Carroll, built a house on the corner of Clay Street and Pleasant Street, still there. A humble home, but a nice home. And he was, by most metrics, just a regular guy. But he was, as they recount in his life and character, he was actually an exceptional person. And how he conducted himself in both business and in politics, and then how he interacted with people in the community and with other politicians was notable. And so I was very inspired by reading his story, and I highly recommend that you read it too. And once again, not easy to get your hands on this book. So I was inspired. I'm like, hey, I've done this before. This is, out of print as well. And so I was able to make it once again for others to enjoy. And so here is a reprint of the book, all the contents of the book. And I made this available as well. You can click a link in the description if you're interested in reading this. You will be inspired. I can't. You'll just have to read it for yourself. Fascinating man, and I think it would be enriching to anybody to learn the history of who this guy was, how he conducted himself and represented Mount Carroll and this area, the 5th District of Illinois at the time, and why the people who came here from Congress spoke so highly of him. And it's a wonderful read. It's a quick read. It's only about 50 pages long, but it is so worth reading. And so I encourage you to pick up a copy for yourself. And so there are 4 books that I think everybody who is from Mount Carroll should read. I think you would have a greater appreciation for where you're from. So enjoy, and I hope to see you in another episode of Mount Carroll Then and Now.